What's your favorite soup to make at home? Ours is Italian wedding soup. So have fun with us while we cook our Italian wedding soup in the crock pot. So we're going to start with chopping some vegetables. You're going to need celery, carrots, and potatoes, 2 onions, and a bag of spinach. We're going to go ahead, we're going to rinse our vegetables, and then we're just going to give them a nice rough chop. We're also going to use a bunch of parsley. That's going to go into our meatballs for our Italian wedding soup. So Italian wedding soup is basically a soup with chicken broth base, a bunch of vegetables, and little meatballs that go inside. Okay, so all of our veggies are getting a nice rough chop, including our onions. We're just dicing them into 4 pieces. Once your veggies are all chopped, we're going to go ahead and then we're going to get started on our meatballs. If we're making this in the crock pot and not on the stove, it's going to take a minimum of 4 hours on high. And if you're making it on the stove, you can speed up the process with the 2-hour cook. Now that our veggies are rinsed and chopped, we're going to start our meatballs. So we're going to add our chopped meat into our bowl. We're going to go ahead and add about a cup of breadcrumbs. We're going to mince 7 to 8 garlic cloves. We're going to add a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. And we're also going to add a half a cup of Pecorino Romano cheese. Being that we're adding so much cheese to our meatballs, not only are they going to be delicious in flavor, but that means that there's going to be enough salt in the meatballs to salt pretty much the entire soup. So we're only going to add a little bit of salt to our soup once we're done. So we're adding salt and pepper to our meatball mixture. And then once that's done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to crack 3 to 4 eggs, depending on how much chopped meat you use. I'm using a little over a pound. It's enough to make about 40 meatballs, little ones. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chop my parsley that I've rinsed. I'm going to fine chop it. And then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to toss that into the bowl. And then it's going to be ready to mix up. So then we're just going to get in there with our hands so we can feel the mixture. And we're going to incorporate all of the ingredients together. So we want to make sure that our meatballs are feeling nice and wet, because if they're dry in the bowl, they're going to be dry in our soup. And that's what your mixture should look like. And these are the same meatballs that you can use for sauce as well. So they're super versatile. You can even cook them up and just make a meatball sandwich. You can use them for whatever you'd like. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to start rolling out our meatballs. And also you can cook the meatballs straight up in the soup, or you can brown them first. Today we're going to brown them first. We just want to add a little extra flavor, and it's raining out. So when it's raining, I like to put a little more effort and time into cooking because there's nothing else to do other than, the million other things that we have going on. But anyway, so I have my meatball helper with me here, and he's insisting that dipping your fingers in the water is more helpful to rolling. So we had a little meatball competition going on, but we try to make it fun. So I have olive oil in my pan. It's heated up, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop my meatballs, and I'm going to cook them for about 5 minutes. I'm going to brown them on each side and then pull them out. Remember that they're going into the soup, into our crock pot, so they're going to cook for a long time anyway. So it's okay if they're not fully cooked through. Unless you plan on picking on any or eating any while you're cooking, then I would leave those for a little bit longer and make sure that they're fully cooked through. Our meatballs are done, so now we're going to get back to our crock pot and get this soup finished. I'm adding 2 boxes of chicken broth, and it might look like you might need a little more liquid, but don't overfill it, because once you start putting in all the veggies and meatballs, the soup's going to rise. So 2 boxes was perfectly fine, and it literally filled my soup all the way to the top. So we're dropping our meatballs that we just cooked in, and then after we drop our meatballs in, we're going to go ahead and just dump all of our rinsed, chopped veggies in. So we have our potatoes, we have our carrots, we have our celery, and we have our 2 onions. So once we're done putting everything into the bowl, we're just going to add a little pinch of salt and pepper. Remember, not a lot of salt. And then we have our spinach that's rinsed. And we're going to hold that off to the side because if you throw that in now, it's too early and the spinach will wilt all the way down. So we're going to wait until there's about a half an hour remaining for it to cook. And then we're going to go ahead and throw our spinach. And if you want to add pasta, you can. I'm using orzo pasta. I'm going to cook that when the soup is ready. It takes about 10 minutes to cook and it's perfect. So we just added our spinach and the soup will be done in a half an hour. And look at how deliciously healthy and amazing that soup looks. It's really so good and it'll last you for about 2 to 3 nights for meals. Enjoy!